but they would be losing market share now to gray market aftermarket products, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
even at our shop, it's like, hey, anytime you
But
can
that's
buy
always
something
been that way.
No, but I think it's totally changing now because of the World Wide Web, right?
Oh, okay.
Like in the 80s and 90s, it wouldn't have been like that.
Yeah.
How would you have ever found? You probably still would have, but it would have
Yeah.
been like some guy driving around from farm to farm with these aftermarket products or selling them to a shop.
But
now any mechanic could literally order the part from anywhere in the world and have it shipped to his place, right?
Yeah. I also think it's that, like, especially these bigger companies are not owned by one person anymore. They're owned by like an investment group, or they're publicly traded, where the thing that matters most is how much money you're making above everything. That's the primary value driver, instead of actually adding value to your customer, which is pushing the margins up. When I think business should be always offering more value than you're taking and still making a profit. But your goal is not to make money, it's to provide a good house, or to provide a good car repair, or provide.
At the marriage retreat, talk about the uber wealthy, but like the guy who owned the family that owned Mr. Freezy, they were there, and they had just sold, ironically, to a private equity company. And I never did ask them how they would, because this is a Christian family. These are very good people, right? And they were
Still need Jesus too, or not? Like how good?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But just Christian values. That's what I meant by good.
Okay. I was just being
good values. No, not good people. Horrible people. Dead in their trespasses. But it was just interesting, that flavor of like all of a sudden how the business changes when someone comes in, right? And like I said, I didn't ask him in detail what that would look like. Now, all these private equity companies, when they buy a company, they keep management on. And this guy had just stepped down as the CEO, and they had sold like a year and a half or 2 years ago. And then they have like a whole, buyout structure over the course of those years. So the guy doesn't run the company into the ground. But
yeah. That's why I think purpose is really important. And I see that in a lot of business owners, they don't actually really know beyond like making money what their purpose is. And if you don't really understand that, then you're gonna be just profit driven, or you're gonna be not really know where you're going. But especially business ownership, like you have this amazing opportunity to like speak into your employees and transform their lives, or like your customers' lives. Like it's such a cool medium to be able to have a massive impact. But if it's, your heart has to be in the right place to want to do that, right? It's still loving people ultimately as yourself, to be able to do that. Because if it becomes selfish, then it's going to go sideways quick. Not to say that you won't make a lot of money. You might make more money, but it's not. You're not going to have the joy in it either, I don't think. Has that shifted for you over the years as a business owner? Like from like you own business pretty early on, and to like what the purpose behind it is? Like, how do you think about it? Is it just?
I guess I've never, like, as much as I've always like profit mattered, and I like making money on deals in my early 20s, and now I'm in my 40s. I guess I feel like very early on I learned that there was very little satisfaction in that, like, and still tried harder, but like there's never, like, you cannot make enough money to feel content and happy, right? And I did, like, not that I made scads, because I didn't, but I made more than I ever thought I would have, put it that way, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, it's very not satisfying. And interesting too, even if you look at, like, I had parents that are very content people, and always had enough, like never scads, but always enough, right? And just that probably stuck with me more than I realized. And they didn't give lectures about it ever. It wasn't like they weren't like teaching, they were just kind of living it. And and I think that, and that's why I find it somewhat humorous that I'm perpetually discontent, because I'm so different than that. But that's part of the entrepreneurial spirit and trying new things. I just feel like once you have enough where you can, because it's a level playing field, and I know that, right? And like even people that have a dream, like people that, like, there's Dan Martell wrote Buy Back Your Time. It was recommended by your brother. Actually, I read it. It's a great book for someone like myself. But like even that guy, like, he's living in a life. He'll post pictures of driving a Lamborghini, or like, would I like to drive? I'd be fine driving a Lamborghini, but like I'm fine driving a half-ton pickup and getting, like, those are fun experiences. But like if I had to list the 5 things that I'd want to do, that would not be in the top 5, right?
Yeah.
And like I have realized, I guess it's just like, when you, like, our businesses are very much integral to like nonprofits, and to me that's what matters. If like Jesus calls us to look after the orphans and the widows, what does that look like in our community? That means Pearl, that means Meadow Rose, that means pro-life. That for me obviously it's going to mean something different to somebody
Well, it's not
else.
our money anyway, right? You're just called
it's not, we're stewards. So that's where that book that I'm reading slowly, I still have not finished it, but the money, possessions, eternity book is so important, right? And even I haven't got to the chapter yet, but Maria's talked about it a lot, where it's like even retirement, like what does that mean? What does it mean for saving for retirement? Is that biblical? What company should we be investing in, right? And so I don't know. It's a personal journey, and I'm always scared to speak really strongly myself, because I think, man, that's for everybody to wrestle with. And somebody at the retreat I was at was talking about how they give, right? And I was saying the wrestle that I had, even like you're expected to write a check at this thing and how you do that. And then they said their experience was, hey, we just take 10% of our income from our business, 10% from our personal income, and that money set aside, and that's what we give from. And I mean, I wasn't about to give him a spiritual lecture, but I'm like, I don't think that's how we're called to be. I don't think it's box checking. I don't think, you don't get to give 15 or 20% and say, oh, now I'm being really generous because the standard's 10. Nowhere is the standard 10. We're called to be sacrificial giving. And some of us, that might not even be with money. It might be with our time. Yeah. And that's the thing that's the most precious, right? Yeah. So I don't know. It's a personal journey, right?
Well, I think what God is ultimately after is your heart. Like he asked the rich young ruler to give everything he had. He asked Zacchaeus to give up half that he had. He said to the woman that gave like 2 pennies or whatever else like that, like she gave like everything or whatever. And so he's ultimately after our affections. Right? He's not after not box checking, but like your heart. If you're still trying to like hold on to a little piece and stuff like that, even if you're holding on to 5%, but it's still just like, well, then that's all for just me. Yeah. No, it's like live surrendered, and that's where the real joy is too, because then you don't have to worry about it anymore, about like what you have or what you don't have. He says he'll give you what you need. Do you trust him or not? And it reminds me of a conversation I had with Martin last week, and he is part of a YPO group, which I think is like all business guys that get together. And he said there was one guy he met with that had like 10 supercars and basically had just everything, and that he had prayed before they had shared a meal together. And so they were talking about faith and stuff, and he reminded the guy that like we all have a God-shaped hole in our hearts, right? Like nothing, whatever it is, if it's a ministry, which is really dangerous because then it feels like you're doing good.
Yeah, try to make yourself feel good. And you get praised a lot for it. It's probably the most dangerous, actually.
Or money or whatever else like this. Like Jesus will satisfy you. He's the living water. Nothing else will. But it's hard to get through our thick skulls.
It was interesting. On the retreat, they had a guy, Stephen Bell, who's a musician out of Winnipeg. I mean, some people probably know of him. I had never heard of him. But he performed there, and he sat at my table for dinner on Saturday night because my wife wasn't there, so I went and sat with the workers there, and he was sharing that he does stuff in California. He's done stuff with Rick Warren, and he was at a breakfast meeting a while ago with Rick Warren. And Rick Warren, after he wrote Purpose Driven Life book, which sold 50 million copies, obviously made Rick Warren very wealthy. He made a kind of a public announcement, which I guess would be counter to Scripture's thing of, hey, not letting your left hand know what your right hand is giving. That's what I brought up when I was sharing with those folks, right? Just kind of like wrestling. But anyways, he said Rick Warren went up and shared at that thing and said, hey, my 10% left over, I'm doing totally fine, right? And then put the call out there to be like that idea of sacrificial giving, right? What does that look like? And I think in our culture, it's difficult because even as a business owner, you think, okay, how am I supposed, like, obviously you don't want to bankrupt your business, but, and then I watched a clip the other day of Francis Chan, and he's going on a rant about, hey, if I went broke and if I starved and then ended up, going to heaven, and just kind of like, man, I ended up here because I literally was so generous. Like, is that the worst thing that could happen, right? Yeah. It was just interesting, right? Yeah. It was challenging for me. Because often I still have that idea of like that safety blanket and the comfort of just having
imaginary walls.
Well, something somewhere, right? And it's just like, no, it's totally
also because there's so much of it that don't like. So when we try to control it, also there's so much anxiety tied to that because we know that we don't control the whole market. We don't control
the stock
everything
market
that happens.
Or the housing market,
but God does. And Randy Alcorn actually, so he wrote the profits to all of his books before he started writing. The guy that wrote Money, Possessions, and Eternity away to a fund, so he didn't have anything. Then he got arrested a whole bunch of times for speaking out outside abortion clinics, and they were going to sue him for all of his money, but he had none. And if he would have kept all the money himself, they would have been able to take all that money from all of his books away, and now they give it all away.
It's really humbling.
That's awesome. And John Piper too. He wrote he's written like millions of books, and from the day one he put it towards like a board and says we're giving all this money away. Well, then you don't have to worry about it and have all this stress of what to do with it. And so he actually recommends, or maybe it's Alcorn that recommends, set a weight for yourself at like 25 or whatever, or 20 years old, at like how much you need to make 100 grand a year, 200 grand a year, whatever
And
your
everything
number is.
above that, you just give away.
Yeah, for the rest of your life. And then just like, because it's way harder to work backwards.
But you just don't.
Yeah.
You don't. And you see that over and over because it does not matter what people make. Most people are tight, right?
Yeah.
I would actually argue that people that make way more money are probably tighter. Because very quickly your lifestyle there's just 1,000 people that come at you and ways to piss away your money, right? So
I also don't think it's like trying harder to be more generous or do money the right way is the answer either. It's like be in love with Jesus more, and the rest of your affections or ways to live will naturally fall in line. Like,
yes, but I would challenge that in the sense of, man, if we all have moments where we're asked for money, right? And our response could often be, oh, I already give to this, or, oh, I don't feel that strongly. But man, just wrestle with it and just, I don't know. We've seen it at our church. I've seen it in our own lives. It's like, man, when you just have faith and just like, man, God does something, right? He does something in our hearts. And I think it's a blessing. Like like I say, we've had some cool personal stories, and I just think we are called, because we live in such a materialistic society, right?
yeah. So how do you know the will of God?
You don't, but it'll be shown to you. Like,
Well,
it'll
seek
become
first
clear.
the kingdom of God
Yeah,
and his
seek-
righteousness, then all the things will be added to you. Like, it's still like seeking God first, not seeking what should I do with my money first. It's like, yeah. Okay. I think that's good.
You got a lot more recording to do today, so.
Yeah, I got Mike coming on.
Okay, nice.
So, hey guys, if you enjoyed that episode and were blessed by it, would you be willing to support the show? That would help a lot in creating more content, improving the quality of the content, putting the production value, getting more guests on, and me being able to spend more time and energy towards it. So if you're interested in doing that, you can click up here and it'll take you to a support page. But you can also subscribe to the podcast by clicking over here and doing that. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.